The sun was setting over the endless Wyoming prairie when Ethan Cole guided his old pickup truck toward the small ranch on the edge of town. At 43, Ethan lived alone. His wife had passed away years earlier, and since then, the only sounds keeping him company were the wind, his horses, and the creaking wooden fences. That evening, he had stopped at a rundown farmhouse after hearing from a neighbor that a young deaf woman was living there in terrible conditions. Her father, Carl Dawson, had become known for drinking away everything he owned. When Ethan arrived, he found the yard littered with broken bottles. Carl staggered onto the porch, barely able to stand. "You hear about the girl?" Carl slurred. Ethan frowned. "I'm here because someone said she needs help." Carl laughed bitterly. "Take her if you want. I can't feed her anymore." Inside the dim house, Ethan saw a young woman sitting quietly by the window, sketching wildflowers in a notebook. She looked no older than 19. Her clothes were worn, but her blue eyes were calm and intelligent. She never looked up. Carl shoved a worn backpack toward Ethan. "That's all she owns." Ethan ignored the man's cruel attitude. Instead, he contacted the county sheriff and social services. After hours of paperwork and questioning, authorities removed the young woman from the unsafe home and placed her in Ethan's temporary care until a long-term plan could be arranged. On the drive to the ranch, silence filled the truck. Ethan wondered if she understood where they were going. When they arrived, she stepped out slowly, staring at the rolling fields glowing beneath the moonlight. A gentle smile appeared on her face for the first time. Inside the ranch house, Ethan prepared a warm meal. She watched carefully as he placed a notebook and pencil beside her plate. "You can write anything you need," he said softly. She hesitated before writing one careful word. "Thank you." Ethan smiled. Over the next few days, she helped feed the horses, gathered eggs, and even repaired a broken saddle strap with surprising skill. Though she rarely made a sound, she noticed everything around her. One rainy evening, Ethan searched the barn for a missing foal. As thunder echoed across the valley, he slipped on the wet floor and a heavy wooden beam crashed down beside him. Before he could react, a frightened voice broke the silence. "Ethan!" He froze. The young woman stood in the doorway, trembling. She had spoken his name. And somehow, she had heard the beam falling before he did. Ethan stared at the young woman in disbelief. Rain pounded against the barn roof as the fallen beam lay between them. You spoke," he whispered. The girl lowered her eyes. Fear washed across her face as if she had made a terrible mistake. Instead of answering, she slowly stepped forward and helped Ethan move the heavy beam away. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Back inside the ranch house, Ethan lit a fire in the fireplace and placed 2 cups of hot tea on the table. The girl sat quietly, twisting the sleeve of her sweater. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "You don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to share. But when you called my name, I heard you." Tears filled her eyes. In a soft, trembling voice, she replied, "My name is Lily." It was the first time Ethan had heard her introduce herself. "I can hear, but not perfectly," she admitted. "When I was little, I lost most of my hearing after a bad fever. Later, I slowly began hearing some sounds again. Loud voices are difficult. Soft voices disappear. But I hear enough." Ethan listened carefully. "So why pretend to be completely deaf?" Lily stared into the fire. "Because my father liked it that way." Her voice cracked. "When people believed I couldn't hear, they talked freely around me. My father often told strangers I was helpless. He thought no one would ask me questions or believe anything I said." She wiped away a tear. "I heard him making deals, lying, even stealing from people. If he knew I could understand, he would have made my life even worse." Ethan clenched his fists. He suddenly understood why she had stayed silent for so many years. The next morning, while repairing a fence together, Lily suddenly became tense. A black pickup truck rolled slowly past the ranch gate. The driver stared directly at her before speeding away. Lily's face turned pale. "That's him," she whispered. "Who?" My father's friend. Hank. She explained that Hank had often visited their house late at night. She had overheard him demanding money from her father and threatening him over unpaid debts. If Hank finds me, she said, he'll think I know everything. That evening, Ethan locked every gate on the ranch. Just after midnight, the ranch dogs began barking wildly. A truck engine rumbled outside. Someone was standing beyond the front gate. And in the darkness, a flashlight slowly swept across the windows of Ethan's home. The ranch dogs barked without stopping. Ethan quietly switched off the porch light and peeked through the curtains. A black pickup truck was parked outside the front gate. Two men stood beside it, their flashlights sweeping across the property. Lily's face turned pale. "It's Hank," she whispered. "Don't let him see me." Ethan nodded. "Stay inside. Lock the bedroom door. I'll handle this." Instead of confronting the strangers alone, Ethan reached for his phone and called the county sheriff. He briefly explained what was happening and was told deputies were already on their way. Outside, Hank leaned against the gate with a smug smile. "Ethan," he shouted. "We just want to talk." Ethan kept his distance. "Then you can talk from there." Hank laughed. "That girl belongs with her father. Send her out, and we'll leave." "No," Ethan replied firmly. "She's under legal protection, and you're trespassing." The smile vanished from Hank's face. "You don't know what you're getting into." Before Ethan could answer, one of the men climbed over the fence. Another followed, heading toward the barn. Ethan blew a loud emergency whistle he kept hanging near the porch. The sharp sound echoed across the valley, startling the ranch horses and alerting nearby neighbors. Inside the house, Lily remembered something she had kept hidden for years. She hurried to her backpack and pulled out a small metal box wrapped in an old blanket. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were several faded photographs, an old silver pocket watch, and a tiny voice recorder. Years ago, while pretending not to hear, Lily had secretly recorded one of Hank's conversations with her father. The recording captured Hank boasting about stolen cattle, forged ownership papers, and threatening anyone who spoke against him. "I kept it, just in case," she whispered. At that moment, headlights appeared in the distance. Red and blue emergency lights flashed across the fields. The sheriff's deputies arrived just as Hank tried to force open the gate. Seeing the patrol vehicles, Hank and his companion ran toward their truck, but they were stopped before they could escape. The sheriff secured the recorder and photographs as evidence. "You may have just helped solve several old cases," he told Lily. For the first time in years, she felt hope replacing fear. But as the deputies searched Hank's truck, one officer found a folded envelope with Ethan's name written across the front. Inside was a single handwritten sentence. "This isn't over. The truth about Lily's family has never been told." Ethan and Lily looked at each other in stunned silence. Whatever secret remained, it was far bigger than either of them had imagined. The sunrise painted the Wyoming hills in shades of gold, but neither Ethan nor Lily had slept. The mysterious note kept replaying in their minds. The truth about Lily's family has never been told. The county sheriff arrived early that morning carrying a thin, dusty file recovered from old county records. "Lily," he said gently, "there's something you deserve to know." Years earlier, Lily's mother, Grace Dawson, had owned a small ranch inherited from her parents. She was known throughout the county as a kind, hard-working woman. After Grace died from a sudden illness, her husband Carl fell into alcoholism and debt. Over time, he secretly sold most of the property using forged documents with help from Hank. The sheriff placed an old photograph on the table. In it, a smiling young Grace stood beside a teenage Ethan at a county fair. Ethan stared in disbelief. "I remember her," he whispered. "She once helped my family after a terrible drought. She was one of the kindest people I'd ever met." Lily looked at the photo, tears filling her eyes. "So, you knew my mother?" Ethan nodded slowly. "I just never knew she had a daughter." The silver pocket watch Lily had protected for years carried Grace's initials engraved inside. Hidden beneath its cover was the original deed to a small section of the family ranch, proof that Hank and Carl had never legally owned everything they had sold. With the evidence from Lily's voice recorder, the forged documents, and the hidden deed, the court ruled in Lily's favor. The remaining family land was restored to her, and Hank faced charges for fraud and forgery. Carl, overwhelmed by the consequences of his actions, admitted what he had done and entered a treatment program for alcoholism. Weeks later, life on Ethan's ranch felt peaceful again. Lily laughed more often. She planted wildflowers outside the house, just as she had once drawn them in her notebook. She also met with hearing specialists, who confirmed that modern hearing aids could greatly improve the hearing she still had. One evening, as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, Lily handed Ethan a neatly wrapped package. Inside was the repaired silver pocket watch. "You gave me a safe home when I had none," she said softly. "This belongs with someone who reminded me what family truly means." Ethan smiled, his eyes shining with emotion. "You never owed me anything, Lily." She smiled back. "Maybe not." She looked across the wide-open fields that now felt like home. "But I'll always be grateful that you chose kindness when everyone else looked away." As the wind rustled through the grass and the horses grazed peacefully, Ethan realized something he hadn't felt in years. He was no longer alone. And Lily had finally found the family she had been searching for all along.